actual official recording now. This is Craig Lane with Health Alchemy YouTube channel. Community dinner, All Souls Day, that we call this, All Souls Day, Halloween, Samhain, the pagan way. There's these days between each of the seasonal transitions. That's the halfway point. And this one's Samhain, I believe it's or Samhain, or Samhain, thank you. And it's generally viewed as the day, many people believe it's the day when the veil between the living and the dead is the thinnest. For me, it's my kryptonite week, because I was born on May 1st, 6 months prior. So it's just sort of like, I've always feel I don't want to be around anybody. And so I have to get in this God space of where, okay, thy will be done. So there's that moment of, I got to surrender to what big Craig wants versus the little guy that, we all have our little version, our bigger version, right? So the big guy comes out and he plays, and the little guy goes and hides in the closet and gets taken care of. And so tonight just fall transitions, and we've been following this theme during the cleanse, especially of consciousness, and how does food affect consciousness, and how does how much we sleep affect our consciousness, and how much does our company affect our consciousness? How much does our breath, more importantly, affect our consciousness? Because that's within our control to some degree. So tonight, I'm going to kind of keep it a little bit simple. There was a couple of topics like ending a cleanse. And so a cleanse is like a ritual, generally it's viewed as purification. You could have an anti-cleanse, I guess, like the opposite. This guy had the alcoholics diet. And it was like meat and cheese on one side and then heavy booze on the other. And is Jonty still here? He'd appreciate this. The extremes, the extreme yin and yang there, right? Alcohol, extreme yin, and meat and dairy on the other side, and salt. I could really. He thought he was going to die, but the guy ended up living. He was like, "Oh, I'm going to kill myself. He just drink all these booze and eat all this meat and cheese," and he ended up living and adapting. Kind of like Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead was one where he kind of went in reverse, and then what was the one where the guy went to McDonald's? Super Size Me. Oh my God. I almost walked out. I just had a heart attack watching the whole scene. Oh, how could you do that to yourself? Jeez. Oh. So that's kind of where this little thing here says, food, herbs, nutraceuticals, poison, side effects. And I was taught long ago that there are things that are sort of level one, we used to say in my herb classes, the things you can do every day, no problem. There's no side effects, like eating normal foods. And on that level, though, what's poison for some of us is medicine for others. And that's what I've identified through my nutrition practices. I have 5 or 10 foods. They're just like, on some days, they're kryptonite. Avocado is one of them. Cucumbers, squashes, lentils, coconut. It's very odd. And that's, when we all have about 5 or 10 of these, and we don't even know they're floating around in our diet. But when you do eliminations and then, eliminate and add back, or fast down to bone broth, or fast down to juice, and add things in slowly, and that's how you identify your allergens that way. The medical test will never do it because it's in vitro. It's a foreign antigen they're introducing in a test tube. That's not you. That's not your vital life force. This one woman has made a connection with histamine and allergic responses to hyperkundalini states, where the person's in an awakening state. For God's sakes, so it's all connected. Psychoneuroimmunology. Me and Carl could talk for hours on that. And how it's connected to the gut, and how the microbes down there affect our consciousness. That's why I'm here, is because I was the guy that I could have 20 bowel movements a day on a bad day. It was, I have bad days. I have days where connected to that with my hay fever, leaky gut, permeable gut, meant reactive system. So I was a guy that it took a broken neck to kind of wake me up at age 21. I broke my neck up in Davenport here. I love being back in my hometown because I was away in college at San Luis for a lot of years, and I really felt the young man energy of, I thought I was invincible. And messing around 55 miles an hour next to the freeway, driving like, Daisy and Bo and Luke Duke, getting sideways and, tail spin at dirt. My friends were following me and I was showing off and lost control of the vehicle, not wearing a seatbelt. And you say, what a tragedy, but I say, no, that's what woke me up. It's a big wake-up call. And I'm grateful for it now, because I wouldn't have become who I was without it, and the world's a better place for sure, because that guy died. And he was reborn. And I probably had 9 or 10 of those in my life. I think many of us can relate. You know, where it's like, I'm in chapter 9 or 10 now. I look back and I go, oh, man, I really did that? Wow. That was me? You guys relate? Yeah. It's that time of year, it's reflection, you know. It's like, I'm more drawn to silence than anything, especially this time of year. So what's going around, if it is still going around, there's this blend I make called Maximum Mental Alert. And it's sort of one of my signature blends I've been making about 15, 20 years, because I broke my neck, folks. I've had multiple concussions, traumatic brain injuries. And I was the first candidate for autoimmune brain disorders, you know, and lived on the edge my whole life, through being a surfer here locally too. And so this is Bacopa, gotu kola, rosemary, St. John's wort, and ginkgo, extracted through apple cider vinegar. So I've been getting requests from my clients over the years to do more apple cider vinegar blends and not alcohol based. So this is one of them. I got 1.5 gallons of this stuff, so it'll be for sale soon. But I call it Maximum Mental Alert because it definitely makes you alert, but it doesn't make you hyper. And there's some evidence that Bacopa moneri or Brahmi and gotu kola and some of these neurologically based herbs, they actually can help regenerate brain tissue and nervous tissue. I don't know that's what happened in my case, but my doctor at Dominican said I would never surf again. I was there 34 years ago. And, but that was the moment where there's a critical moment for all of us in our lives. And this is such an appropriate conversation for the fall, I'm realizing, because this is the season of letting go. This is the season in the fall energy in Chinese medicine, metal element. This is your rhythm. You're taking in. Why the hell are the lung and the large intestine paired together? You know, what? I used to go, John, you can probably relate back. How? What? They have something in common? Like one's gross and one has air, you know? But it's taking in and letting go. And so when that gets stuck, we call that grief. One of my higher level conditions of health or road signs on the road of life kind of thing is, how fluid are my emotions? How fluid is my mind? How fluid is my psyche? Because when we're stuck on something, it usually means we're in an eddy. And when we're in an eddy, then my teachers say that's your work. You know, whatever's recycling in your consciousness, start looking at that. You know, get curious about why that's recycling. And I understand more for myself what that is. And part of it is keeping my body fluid. And so the organs, the lung and the large intestine, well, I have this thing right here. Oh, there it is, mucus. See right down here, mucus. All you people watching the recording. So mucus. So we have beneficial mucus or slime that covers our membranes, right? Because it would be all dry, right? Without something coating, covering this and down below, you know. And that's one of the two things as a sort of a Chinese medical practitioner, is to say is wet and dry. You know, it's one of the things I look at right away. Where's there dryness and where there's wetness? And this is the driest season around here, if you hadn't noticed. Nature's all dried out. And hence we'd be more dry. Does that make sense? And so these are the seasons where the moistening foods are generally more favorable. One of my favorites that's just an easy to grow one is comfrey, especially the greens are still growing. Great green smoothie material, great permaculture plant. It's if I could only grow 10 plants, it would be in those plants. If it was the only plant I could grow, it might be the only one. That's how important comfrey is to me in the earth. Yeah, like I have a comfrey plant that I chopped up and harvested, and then I just had little stringlets in these old barrels of dirt out there, and somehow water dripped in the pots, and I've got 25 new comfrey plants that have already popped up in less than a month. It's like, and Michael Tierra, one of his colleagues, has an herbal tarot deck, and comfrey is the plant. I think it's the world. Is the world the 20? Is that the 20 card? Yeah, so comfrey is the world, and I totally relate. I mean, it's an amazing regenerative. I've seen it in so many colitis and gut cases, and my own. I took it every day for 4 years to disprove the FDA crap about it to myself. Really, I don't take anyone's word for anything until I see for myself, and that's how I've operated my practice, really, and a lot of people that are alive, because we said, no, doctor, we're not going to give this 14-year-old a knee replacement. It was one doctor's solution to this 14-year-old had an autoimmune little bone disorder, and I said, no. He was being shamed into a vegetarian diet when he was a meat eater type. That's what I do, is I type people. We had a vegetarian mother, sort of shaming mother, and we had this pilot, kind of cool guy pilot, father, meat and potatoes guy. So we had right there the child stuck between us, that polarity. You see the struggle the kid was in. His autoimmune disorder to me was nothing more than that division in his consciousness. And he's got mixed signals coming in from both sides. He's, You talk about internal wind, right, John T? Internal wind, right? Ah, mom's doing this, dad's saying that. What do I do? And I came in and just went, no, let's find out what's best for the kid. Not what you guys want, not what the acupuncturist wants. Because that was the acupuncturist that was shaming him into it. Why? You want sausage? Oh, bad for you. No. If you don't feel better after you eat, then the meal didn't work. So go investigate. That's what I tell people. You're tired after you eat? Well, you might as well look at what you're eating, because you can change that, like go more to fat and protein if you're tired all the time. Oh, you're tired all the time on fat and protein? Well, try more carbohydrate. It's a see for yourself kind of thing in my world. Just go try. And I'll supervise you, it's like greatest journey ever. It's like getting your health back, So if I'm going to give some takeaways tonight, then for mucus, then mucus down here means mucus up here. And mucus up here means obscured consciousness. And I know because my breath, I study myself every day, do yoga every day, meditate every day. It's like, I got to check in with my earth device, how's my soul interfacing today? If I'm shaky, it's like, I'm not going to go surfing 20-foot waves, or put myself in a risky situation, especially at age 55. It's one of the bummers about getting older. Like, God, I'm limited now. I can't do that. Surf those 20-foot waves anymore. Darn it. Can you guys relate? Yeah. I got inguinal hernia too from doing stuff too hard, too fast. So just to finish off the consciousness part, the mental alert, if you want some, it's about a tablespoon per 2 cups or 1.5 teaspoons per cup if you want to put it in a little shot glass. I usually serve mocktails, and so that's my mocktail offering tonight. I drink it before bed, even in bed. If I'm in bed and I drink water, it's my bed mate, I really see results. And if your thermostat don't work, nothing else is going to work. I was taught that long ago. The endocrine and nervous systems, you got to have that stuff working, because that's the central bridge that everything's regulated by. And if disharmony is a major thing. That's where ease becomes disease. Ease is harmony. We feel ease a certain way. That's what I'm here to teach. Like there's certain things you can look for internally. And then that's the root of sufferings right there, where ease becomes disease. Mucus is part of it. Obscured consciousness, part of it. That's what the Bible 10 Commandments bullshit. The 10 Commandments aren't commandments, they're 10 pointers, folks. If you want to murder somebody, you better look at your mucus brain. You're out of balance, basically. If you want to steal from someone, if you want to screw your neighbor's wife all the time, maybe you want to look at why that's happening, and maybe it might be your diet, or it might be who you're hanging around with, or the music you're listening to, or something we're all sponges. We don't even realize it, I knew I was an empath at age 4 or 5, but I was shamed out of it. You shouldn't act that way. People will think you're weird. That's what I got. So we shoved him in the closet for about 25 years, and then him exploding out, I wasn't given a choice in my life. I was shown stuff that I didn't want to see. It was like, oh my, what? So but fortunately, people like me survive, and we're all sitting in this room, and none of us are old enough. And they're like, wow, I don't know about you guys, but I'm shocked I'm still alive. I wept on my 50th birthday. Like, wow, it was my 25-year-old looking forward, 4 years out of a broken neck. He was like, I'm not going to make it to 50. Remember this moment as 25 years going, I'm not going to make it. And then suddenly I made it. Wow, that's what it feels like. And fall is kind of like that. So we're letting go. So the number one takeaway then for mucus tonight is radishes. I cannot emphasize, the radish is like the god of the fall for mucus, like big heart. Yes! Yes! That's right. He knows the rules. We're on recording too, I love it. How much time I got left here? Okay, we got 5 or 10 minutes. So one thing to keep in mind is that we have healthy mucus, I didn't go over that, and unhealthy mucus. So we all know, like I notice when I drink this sour water, the mucus on my tongue goes away. Why do you think that is? What is sour? Is it acid or alkaline? Acid. Well, doesn't acid dissolve things? It just dissolved the mucus on my tongue. So wouldn't sour be a good pair with the radish then? Yeah. One of my macrobiotic teachers in 96 or something, he called radishes the roto-rooter of the mucus system. So I was like, you know what roto-rooter, the commercial, a drain plumbing commercial used to run here in the States. Rooter, sewer service, something like that. And catchy little jingle. We're programmed so well, aren't we? Huh? Yes! Yes! Away go trouble down the drain. Oh. Oh my God.
What was that about being sponges?
You really see it. You really see it. I wish we had like a good camera. We had like a camera swirling around and get a big view of everybody. Maybe someday. And what that does is when you get the sort of pathological mucus off, from my experience of doing, I mean, most people hate to hear about this, especially after they've been eating or while they're eating. That's why my food's still over there. I just can't eat until I'm done with all this. Is after thousands of enemas, and I don't know how many psyllium clay herbal drinks I drank. I mean, maybe 1,000 of those. I really started to see like, wow, my dysfunction out here is being caused by dysfunction in here. And then there were 4 or 5 apex moments, I call them. One of them was this space egg alien came out of me. I mean, I just could, I'm really sensitive. I could feel like that was different. So you go, you know, gross, fish it out of the toilet. Like, oh, this jellyfish thing. And I took a picture of it. I still have it. It's like, 'cause I couldn't, people didn't believe me. They'd be like, I can't believe that came out of you. So I just, okay, I'm gonna start photographing this stuff. I mean, I had zebra stripes and polka dots and black tar and long ropes. And it's like, when's it gonna end? But and guess what, folks? There are worms that live down there in all of us. And they serve a valuable function. They're eating up rot. Now, the beneficial ones, they're poop, because everything, this is what freaks people out, but we're mostly bugs. I mean, wouldn't you say, Carl, we're mostly bugs?
10 times as many bacteria in your gut than cells in your body.
Wow.
And they're eating and they're pooping. Here's my point about having good gut bugs is good gut bugs are making B vitamin factors, they're making immune factors, they're protein that other cells might eat. And so they're pooping out good stuff. But the bad bugs, that's why we have inflammation. That's one reason we do, is because of their bug poop. You want to feed the bad bugs, and mycotoxins or fungal toxins are incredibly irritating. I mean, I've seen some dark field microscopy of like white blood cells running from hyphae of, you know, fungal cells, you know, just the body, even the body cells go, ah, monster, King Kong, run from. That's what it looks like to me on the live blood cell stuff. So, jeez. So to me, that goes back to consciousness again, though, is like parasitic forms of consciousness. That's kind of what, you know, parasitic life forms, they, you know, it's like just eat. They don't care. You know, like, I don't want to take life, but you've got mosquitoes and you get those, what are those black flies on the East Coast? Those things are awful. You know, those things, those ones on the East Coast, they're so, I don't want to go into it because it'll gross out the audience. So once that layer comes off, because what's feeding in that layer is stuff you don't want in your body. If you've got waste down there, then there's things that eat that waste. And look around in nature. The things you see out in nature that are eating waste, they're also in your body eating waste. I had one teacher that said, don't blame the salmonella, don't blame the food poisoning, blame yourself for putting yourself in a position to be susceptible in the first place. I couldn't agree more. You know, like I had a little alcohol drink the other night. Where's Diana? Yeah, I had a little alcohol drink the other night, and I felt it for 2 or 3 days. I was listening to this guy on this Quicksilver detox talk, and yeah, Quicksilver company, the guy just did detox talk. He's pretty interesting. And he was talking about how he found that alcohol correlates with leaky gut highly in his experience. And leaky gut to me means leaky brain also, which means clouded consciousness. And I'm so sensitive, it's like, you know, there's this decision that, this is another walk away moment actually, is I have this thing called Future Craig Beta. And so John, it's sort of a self-muscle test. Like, hey, should I do this or not? I check it with my future self, and he's my feedback. And, no, don't stay up till midnight again. Go to bed at 10. You'll feel better. I'll feel better in the morning. It's like giving yourself a hug kind of moment. You know, it's past self giving future self a hug. You see, you're all smiling. It totally changes everything. It's just so easy to be healthy if you just follow a few basic principles. And one of them is getting out of those lowered, I call them La Brea tar pits consciousness moments, you know, where you're sticky and heavy and confused and dark. You know, oh God, get me out of here. There's grace, you know, thank God for grace. You know, and that's what I think these consciousness reviving herbs like this, that's part of the grace is, if we're clear here and we have clear intentions, and look, I saw Margaret Mead's still up there from last week, then the things we can check for this, besides what I just said, the future Craig veto moment, another takeaway is you can check your mucosa by your tongue. So if your tongue has a big slimy coat on it, probably a slimy coat all the way down. If your tongue has hamburger helper and it's all chopped up, guess what? You're probably ulcerated and chopped up down below. Because they're all epithelial cells, they're all skin cells. All the way down, skin cell, inside your nose, on your eyeballs. It's a lot of epithelial cells in your body. And so if one's unhealthy, chances are another is, because life to me is a process. We're not a series of MTV moments, you know, life's a process, and these cells are always renewing. I heard 3 to 5 days the gut cells renew. Is that true?
Every week.
So guess what? From here to here, they renew every week. That's a lot of cell turnover. It's incredible. Like the awesome power of the renewal of that tissue, right? Wow. So that's you need that mucosa again, and you need a healthy one. You look at your tongue, my tongue's dry because I've been talking and drinking a sour liquid. See, there you go, audience. FCC code violation, probably. He stuck his tongue out. He gave the camera COVID. For God's sakes. Oh, it's the ridiculousness of it. So I guess I'm going to just probably wind this up with these are sort of the teaser moments. There's ways to check where you are in your journey from ease to full-on disease, you know, diagnosed disease. And somewhere in that journey, I call it there's a 3-phase process. You know, phase 1 symptoms are generally not regularly, but that's why I have forms for this. It's like, if you have a symptom that pops up every month or every few weeks, you know, generally it's a sign, but it means you've already missed something, by the way. There's more subtle signs that most people aren't looking for, like the tongue. That's why I do yoga every day. It's like, oh, I'm out of balance today. Maybe I need to just lay in bed and rehydrate. And this is the autumn, which is generally, this is the most contracted time of year. I mean, and, oh, lost my focus for a second there. Where was I being, Gene? Where was I?
We're winding up and contracting.
Okay, thank you. We're going to contract this. We're going to contract this meeting pretty quick here with just a few takeaways. And so one takeaway is remember that your breath is always your window to being awake. If you can just pray to the God of grace that you remember your breath, and then suddenly you're awake. And you just remember that. If you can do that for a minute, just follow your breath for a minute, your problems will be over, at least for a few seconds. And then you forget again, and then you remember again, and you forget again, and you remember again. And you forget again, you remember again. And you forget again, 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 you remember again, again, again. Isn't that kind of life? But the fun is, I had a teacher that said years ago, I was doing this thing with my girlfriend where we were trying to live in this non-dualistic state more, so we talked about ourselves in third person. Like, there is emotions present. No? This is an Adya. It was from Adya, actually. Poor Adya. It was, you know, and we were a classic, you know, and oh my God. And finally, we were actually with Moki, and Moki took me aside, and at the end, another teacher took me aside and said, "For God's sakes, Craig, you're going to fall asleep. So just have faith in the fact that you're not going to do something that stupid that you're going to harm others, you know, and let yourself fall asleep and relax. And for God's sakes, use I statements." You know, language has these distinctions, right? And so I statements are powerful. I am sad, which I prefer the more Latin way of saying I have sadness. I think the English language is purposefully manipulated. I'm sad, I'm happy, I'm hot, I'm cold, I'm hungry, I'm full. The to be form of the verb, you know, it's a distortion for sure. Latin is much more correct. I have this temporary state called hunger. It's a passing, your consciousness can sort of like go, whew. Like NLP wise, it's like, oh yeah, it's clean, you know. I am sad. The body goes, I'm happy. Body goes, yeah, I'm in love. I'm in hate. You know, so it's a good place to end on love and hate. So if you eat a lot of radishes and follow your breath and understand that, oh yeah, one of my three importance is fresh, organic, and local foods, and literally fresh. The vitamin C content of your food is sometimes, in some cases, 80 to 90% gone in 24 hours once it's picked. And most of our vegetables are not even 1 day old. Most supermarket vegetables, even new leaf, are like 3 to 4 days old. So you've lost a lot of your, what I call your fresh food vitamin. You know, I think vitamin C is another, like, it's a debatable topic, that vitamin C is a sunshine vitamin. You know, you could also call it like the water-soluble sunshine vitamin. It's like a life force thing, and then that chi, that life force, is measured through vitamin C. It diminishes and it matches the life force diminishment perfectly. You probably have photography of this stuff, don't we? Have like lettuce leaves or something where they're curly and like as they get older, you know, it probably gets, that's cool stuff. So each of us is also like a meter of that, and if we get in touch with it, we can see, like, you know, like I had a guy that I was in a macrobiotic conference, and he was a martial artist, and he said, "Come and hang out with me because the chi is good today." And I'm like, what does he mean by that? You know, and I think what he meant was he was in a good mood, and his chi was like, you know, the Greek word agape, where it's a natural overflow of love and forgiveness and gratitude and whatnot. It's not a contrived, a should, a duty. It's a natural. So that's what contracting gives us, though. We gather our energy. Contraction, the fall, we gather our energy, goes down, and then it renews in the spring, comes back up out. If you don't gather properly and close the shutters, as some Taoist teachers call, you close the shutters. How do we close the shutters? We get quiet more. We spend more time in the dark. You know, the kind of COVID that was a nice thing about that. It forced everybody to kind of like slow down. You know, and that's a good thing. So on that note, then, we're actually ending before 9 o'clock. This is actually amazing. Is we could record a few pertinent questions. Anybody anything burning about? I think the main thing that is amazing to me is how the mucus is related actually to our state of consciousness, and how these interventions of food, herbs, and medicines, where I never finished level 1. There's level 2 stuff, and level 2 stuff has side effects too. Like, there are vitamins that are called vitamins out there, and they're not really vitamins. There's been a misuse of words over what we call thiamine hydrochloride is a chemical part of that B vitamin process. And we've been sort of brainwashed out of it, and the chemical doesn't replace the process. And I'll give you an example, and then we're gonna end on that. And these interventions, like, I'm a B vitamin junkie, but from whole food standard process wise, because when you realize, this is one of my realizations, is vitamin B1, thiamine, has a fat soluble cofactor, vitamin B4 it's called, but if you look that up, it's called pigeon heart block factor. But Royal Lee, the founder of standard process, found this out in the 30s, that these vitamins they're not measurable in the sense of making them into a chemical substitute. They're naturally part of a matrix of phytochemicals for the plant's life force, literally, but we can zero in pretty good these days. And so this fat soluble cofactor is what protects the nerve from the yang or the hot force of thiamine. Niacin, same thing, right? Niacin, you ever done a niacin flush?
Yeah.
Woo! Wow. You know, I thought I was going to die of heat, hot flashes. Jeez. So that's yang, that burns up your yin. You've increased the fire in your fireplace. Guess what the price is? Your tissues burn up faster. They call that yin deficiency in Chinese medicine. You hear it from your acupuncturist. Oh, you're yin deficient. You know, generally Americans are. We don't renew the log enough. We keep burning the fire. The log gets smaller, and we wonder why. Keep burning that fire bright, and the log gets down. Oh, more coffee, more stimulants, more matches on the fire. And then finally, there's a point where you just have to surrender, you know? So it's dark night of the soul moments, like, I can't do anything now. I mean, I'll just, God, do I have to sleep all day? It's like, well, what's a bummer about that, right? So back to ending this talk now is the moment is always the goal. If you can get yourself back to the present moment, then you're awake and aware to make the choice to choose the radish versus the Hershey's bar. And to stay in the present moment more, my report of findings to you guys all is that if we pray to be present, we pray to be awake, then our tools of consciousness are available to us. But if we're asleep at the wheel in a trigger, right? We're asleep when we're in a trigger, when we're in a reaction, when we regret it later. Well, we were asleep at the wheel. It happens all the time. I don't know how many times a day it happens to me. 3,000. I don't know. But that's the point, is to work through that and try to get back to the present moment when you are awake. And that's when you do your work. It's like, okay, I'm going to do some breathing exercises. And that's my report of findings back after 25 years of yoga. That guy who started 25 years ago, he's like, who is that guy? You know, I mean, I was painfully shy back then. So, but I'm not going to digress anymore. Any other questions? We'll close this out. Do you want on the public part, at least?
I thought it was really helpful last week when you actually shared with us what were mucus forming foods.
Oh, we're going to repeat that.
Yeah,
Okay.
you showed that on a plate. or
Yeah.
something, and so
Oh, yeah, that was really
that
fun, wasn't it?
seems worth repeating since you're still talking about it.
Here's some right here. Cheese is definitely one. Oh, yeah, here's a good one. Oh, this is a monster mucus bomb.
Oh, me too.
Oh, monster mucus bomb. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Mucus bomb. Oh, yeah. Here's what when you eat pizza, chew it about 50 to 100 times, and then tell me that's not a slime ball going down into your intestines.
Arnold Ehret's mucus diet healing system. You ever see that? Arnold Ehret was an old-time naturopath, and his whole book is called Mucusless Diet Healing. So that's all he did.
If you go to these real simple premises like getting the mucus out of your body, there's a lot of things that follow. Your lymph works better, your gut works better, your thinking's clearer, your bowels work more. It's just some simple principles. But I'll be honest with you, and I'm glad we're still recording this, is a lot of the problem is in my 4 foundation system. Part of foundation 1, there's one part about the physiologic blood sugar element, but then there's another called the chooser. And most of us, our chooser is very disharmonized. We're not making healthy choices for ourselves. I know I wasn't, and I probably still aren't now. I probably should not have had that mezcal drink the other night, but there's this other part that comes in. It's like, ooh, I want to try that. And it's like, sometimes it's like you get a green light. And then the point though, is if we do end up doing those things, is not to shame ourselves for doing it, for God's sakes. It's like, enjoy that coffee, chocolate bar, whatever it is, you got to fully enjoy it, because then it's poison, because you're shaming yourselves afterwards. It's not even worth it. No, it's not.
And there's always ways to just then offset it with something that's going to take away from mucus.
Yeah. Yeah.
Drink more water to offset the coffee.
Just occasionally.
Right, and that's a good way to end it. Then is that you have a little self-forgiveness moment, and then I had a Taoist teacher's teacher, this Taoist chef, and his teacher who never left the mountains of China, actually, apparently. He said, "Oh, everything in moderation, including moderation." And on that note, we will end our recording.